Hello, what's up, what's good, and welcome to the Hero Room. Now, today we are going to be going over one of the $5 heroes called Winston. Oh, my bad, I read that wrong. Named Darwin. Now, any of you who have played Overwatch before are familiar with this concept. A monkey in a spacesuit, well, a gorilla, my bad, in a spacesuit, a gorilla scientist, if you will. And yeah, very reminiscent of a certain other gorilla scientist, Winston. Anyways, so as I mentioned before, Darwin is a $5 hero, which puts him in the same tier as Dr. Graf.
Requesting selection. I'm very deep and very nice.
Now, that is a little unfortunate because if any hero is placed in the same tier as Dr. Graf, they're going to be outshone. Dr. Graf is undoubtedly one of the better hero in the $5 bracket. Darwin is a little less so, but here are his abilities. Now, his first ability is Rocket Jump. Another very reminiscent of Winston ability. He overcharges his turbine, rising vertically while melting enemies below with superheated plasma, a slow cooldown. Now, this is his bread and butter ability. This is his damage dealing ability. It's what makes him half decent. The first augment for his first ability is called Kong Style. When Rocket Jump's duration is over, Darwin drops with great force, stunning affected enemies. That's okay. It's not a super ability, nothing crazy. Especially with the slow cooldown, you're not going to be stunning people too often. But it is still a decent augment, I suppose. The second augment is called Boosted Engine. It increases Rocket Jump's area of effect by 25%. Now, because this is his bread and butter ability, because this is so important to have, the increased range is actually rather nice. It's not super noticeable, but it is still good to have when you have a low cooldown, well, slow cooldown on this ability. And yeah. Now, second ability is called Brutal Visage. Darwin pounds his chest, lowering the attack values of nearby enemies. Primal, yet effective nevertheless. Now, the cooldown on this is a regular cooldown. It's moderate. It's not super long, not super short. Now, Darwin is a upfront fighter. Well, he's an upfront tank. He's supposed to be up in there. He's supposed to be taking damage, supporting your allies. Not like Ajax or Dr. Graf, who are able to deal a bunch of damage. He does need to have a lot of backup with him, but he kind of does a good job of supporting them. He's a supportive tank, while Ajax and Dr. Graf seem to be damage-dealing tanks. Now, the first augment for this ability makes Brutal Visage also stun affected enemies. That's kind of nice, because Brutal Visage is the main point of it is to reduce the damage that you're taking. And when enemies are stunned, they can't shoot you, which means you are taking less damage, which means this ability is doing its job. Now, the second augment for this ability is called Encourage. Nearby allies are driven by Brutal Visage, dealing extra damage. Now, this is also a decent augment for the purpose of this ability, because while you're up in there, if you have some melee allies alongside you, some alien dudes with their lightsabers, and you do Brutal Visage, that will buff them, and that will support them even further. So that's kind of a decent upgrade for the purpose that this ability is serving. Now, his last ability is incredibly disappointing. Bright Eyes Lineage. Darwin comes from a long line of the smartest apes on the planet. Woohoo! And yep, that's about it. Yeah, you don't actually get anything. It's an empty ability. You're one of the smartest apes. Congratulations, yay! But yeah, no stat bonus, no stat boost, nothing. Which leads to Darwin being a little lackluster. Now, the ability, while being empty, still does have some augments. The first one being Darwin moves with extra speed. That's not incredibly useful either. Being able to move extra fast isn't super useful in a game where all your characters can lift up and drop off at will with their drop pod, so a little lackluster. The second augment is equally a little lackluster. You improve your respawn time. Now, admittedly, this is better than Shatra's augment, which allowed him to have a chance to improve his respawn time. Having a guaranteed improved respawn time is much better than a chance to have a improved respawn time, but it is a little disappointing nonetheless because you are going to have to die in order to get that improved respawn time, and you don't want your hero dying too often. Of course, Darwin is a tank. He will be up there. He will be up fighting. Sometimes when you forget him, he will die, and having an improved respawn time is kind of nice for these times, but still not the best augment. Not the best by a long shot. Now we are going to be taking him into a defensive kind of map, simply because that is where Darwin seems to excel, because he does perform a very good frontline role for your allies, blocking your enemies from reaching them. All right, where is he? There he is. Now, notable about Darwin is that when you tell him to move a small distance, he walks kind of slowly. But when you tell him to walk a long distance, say about here, he gets up in his jetpack and flies over there, which is a lot faster than his walk. So that's kind of nice. Also, during this time, whenever he's on his jetpack, both when using his ability and simply walking, he is untargetable. He cannot take damage from ranged people. So here's his first ability. He is in the air currently. He can't be hit, and he's dropping plasma on everybody. The damage is rather decent. It's not the best. It's still not matching to Ajax's, but it is notably a fire attack, which means it ignores armor. And ignoring armor can be very important later in the game. Now here is his second ability, Brutal Visage. Now all these guys in a rather large radius are actually stunned, and then they deal less damage. As you can see, he was taking a lot of shots from a lot of people, and he still didn't die, partially because I pulled him out, but also just because he has naturally a lot of health and he can lower their attack. So that's rather nice as a ability. Yeah, it doesn't last very long, however. However, the buff to your allies does also affect him, so he can buff his own attack, which is, yeah, it does redeem the ability of it. Now we're going to send him out with a bunch of troops, because we want to display the true power of Brutal Visage. So stun everyone around him, and your allies start firing away. That was an okay effect. It's not the best, but his rocket jump is, again, very nice. So Darwin is a character that needs a lot of support from his allies around him, but if you can get that support, he will perform his frontline role very well. Also, some of his melee attacks, primarily the jumping one where he jumps at an enemy, will do area damage, which means he is good at handling hordes of enemies. And yeah, honestly, Darwin does do his job rather well, but he doesn't do much other than that. He doesn't have hard removal. He can't remove these super big guys super easily, as you can see. He's having a bit of trouble with it. He does get outshone by other enemies. Standalone, he's a decent hero. He's not horrible. But when compared to Dr. Graf and Ajax and all those other guys, he does seem to fall a little behind. So I would rate this guy 4 out of 10. I would not recommend him compared to the other heroes. He's not Shatra leveled levels of disappointing. He's not like that far down. But he's definitely not like the best in the game. With that said, have a wonderful day. Be sure to like and subscribe. And have fun out there.